my kids were fairly young when I started doing foster care. They were 6 and 8. They're now 17 and 19. So this is something that they had a part in from the beginning when we started talking about foster care, when I explained to them what it was. My son was actually the one that said to me, "Mommy, we should be that safe house for people." We had watched a Dateline or something on TV that the kids were being removed in the court, that followed them through the court system or whatever. And he said he had questions, and "Mommy, why are the cops taking those kids out?" and whatever. So I kind of explained at that time he was 6, and this is what that is and what's happening. And I said, sometimes kids just need a safe place to live for a little while. And he said, "Well, why can't we be that safe house? We have a safe house to live in." And I said, "Well, and it's something, that wasn't the first time I had thought about it, but it's the first time my kids had ever even probably knew what foster care was. And at that point, we weren't really in a position to start yet, but within a couple of years, because I said, if that's something you want to do, we can look into that." So at that time I was in college. So I'd finished college and, get a few other things straightened out. And then when the time came, we sat down, we talked again, and my kid said, "Yes, that's something I want to do." But I've always told the kids too, if this isn't something you want to do anymore, you need to tell me and we'll stop. So as they were growing up, they always knew that that was an option, that they had a say in it. But the problem came when it was, "Well, I don't like this kid. I don't want to do foster care because I don't like this kid." And I'm like, "Okay, but if we quit doing foster care, then the other kids are leaving too." And they didn't want that. So they're like, "Well, no, I don't want that kid to leave." And I was like, "But foster care is foster care." So as much as I've allowed them to have a decision in if we do foster care, they don't get the decision on which kids we have in our house and which ones we don't. Either our doors are open or our doors are closed. But through it all, like I said, now at 17 and 19, we're still going, and they haven't asked me to stop. And, and now I have a grandbaby too. And so this is probably the way he'll grow up in the foster care world too. So.
Well, what a great learning experience. I just think of all the different life lessons along the way that you guys probably talked about that are very unique to your home setting compared to other people's.
Yep. One of the things my kids would always ask, and not only my kids, but also other foster care kids we had in the house at the time, every time a new kid came, "How come he's here? How come she's here?" And I'd say, "That's not my story. If that child wants to share their story, they're welcome to share that, but it's not my story to tell." But also relating that to, that's not your story to tell either. So if he does share that with you, you don't get to go to school and tell kids at school, "Wait, do you know why he lives with me?" or, things like that. My kids grew up, people assumed they were foster children because they knew I was a foster parent. And I think that always kind of bothered them, because sometimes their teachers would say, "Well, we can talk to your foster mom about it." And they'd say, "She's not my foster mom." But it was, teachers that maybe had one of my foster kids in class a couple of years prior or something like that they just knew I was a foster parent. And my children are biracial, so they don't look a lot like me. So it was always assumed that they were foster kids too. But I think that bothered them sometimes. But
sure. Well, and I think, when you are in small town North Dakota, wherever you are here,
yep,
people know your family and people know who's with you and, when they weren't with you and now they are with you and why is this? And it's a lot to juggle some of those questions depending on who's asking them, for sure.
Well, and depending on who's answering, when it's a third grader answering the questions, that's a lot different than if it's an adult answering. And so just, teaching them that phrase, "That's not my story," was probably really important for them at that age.